Hi guys, this is the first in a series of videos I plan to make about playing live poker. I've spent some time looking around for videos on live play and there's not much, so I've decided to make some for myself. There's plenty of the subject of online play, but I think live play is so different from online play that it can be considered a different game. I've tried just talking conversationally through these videos and I end up stumbling my lines and repeating myself and not getting things right or in the right order, so I've ended up writing it down and reading it to you, which ends up with me sounding a little bit flat. Hopefully in the future, as I get a bit more confident with all this software and sound recording and messing about with images and stuff, I'll be able to talk to you a bit more naturally, so apologies if it sounds a bit flat for now. A little about myself. I live in the southwest of the UK and play poker 4 or 5 nights a week at my local casino. They only spread a 50p £1 game and a fortnightly 1-2 game, so that's what I play. I'd like to try higher stakes and I'm thinking of a road trip to Vegas or London maybe. My plan here is to produce a series of videos starting with the basics of the live game and moving on through to advanced play, albeit at low stakes. It's probably important to tell you that I'm a winning player. I make the equivalent of a basic wage, about £6 an hour here in the UK, which is free of tax. So I'm no superstar, but I do win. However, Phil Galfond will not lose any sleep worrying about me. Listening to someone who doesn't win would be a waste of time, I think, so I thought I'd make that point clear. These videos are aimed at new and experienced low-stakes players. New players can watch from the start and learn to play, and I imagine there's plenty of experienced players who want to improve or might just be interested in my way of playing. I assume everyone who watches these knows how to play. By this I mean the rules, order of play, hand rankings, that sort of thing. So having said all that, I suppose I better make a video. The first 2 subjects I want to cover are probably the most important and most overlooked: bankroll and table selection. Bankroll management basically means, do you have enough money to stand some variance? That's poker speak for bad luck. You flop in 2 pair versus some villain's set, for example. By villain, I mean your opponent. So, how much is enough? Well, here's another term you're going to have to get used to. It's situational. You're going to hear that a lot in these videos, and unfortunately it's true. In poker, there's never a standard answer to questions. Answers often will start with, it depends. So this is no different. If you have a job and just play once or twice a week, you don't really need a bankroll. Just rock up to your nearest ATM, get some cash and order some beers and have some fun. If you want to have a more serious crack at this game, or even try to make a living from it, I'd suggest you keep a separate poker bankroll from your real life money. If, like me, you play 51 and buy in for 100 at a time, I'd suggest a bankroll of at least £1,000. That's 10 buy-ins. You could easily lose a couple of buy-ins through bad luck, and you don't want to play scared either. You need to play the game properly. Worrying about money will lead to bad decisions and lost value. So let's assume you're armed with enough dough. Your next decision is where to play. This is called table selection in the poker world. Now this is the simple decision for me. The casino here runs 1 table and I can either sit and play or not, which means I have to play anyone. You probably have the luxury of choosing a table. In short, you want to sit at a table with the most bad players. These are the guys who you will make the most money from. So how do you spot a bad player? Well, there are a number of ways, the best of which is past experience of playing with them. You're not always going to get this luxury, so here are a few other pointers. The majority of older players are bad. I'm 40, by the way. Players buying in short, say 50 in a 51 game, are likely playing scared and hence likely playing bad. Drunks are often bad. Women, no comment. The way a player looks. If he looks like an idiot and acts like an idiot, guess what? He's probably an idiot. So that's a few pointers on spotting bad players. How about the good ones? The stereotypical good player will be a young guy in a hoodie, not poker badged, plugged into an iPod, playing with a deep stack. Basically, if a guy is sat with at least 100 big blinds and looks switched on, he probably is. Only playing with these guys will reveal the truth. If you're forced to sit at a table with what appears to be good players, try to sit to their left. This is known as having position on them. I'll talk about this more in the future, but it's a definite advantage to you. Here's the good news though, the majority of players who play low stakes live games are bad. This might sound harsh, but think about it. Why would a good player be playing here? If he's good enough, he'll play higher stakes and increase his win rate, or he'll play online for the same reason. Don't be intimidated by any of these guys. The worst you're going to be after watching these videos is hard to beat. Even good players will find you a tough opponent after you've learned to adjust to them. So, we were armed with our money and we found ourselves an okay table. Now what? Well, now you'll be surprised to know that the dealer is going to deal you 2 cards and ask you what you want to do. Which brings me to a third and sticky subject of telling you what hands to play. Now I don't know what game and players you're sat in, so I'm going to assume it's 9 or 10 handed, and the players are a mix of low stakes players ranging from drooling idiots through to okay players who put some thought into their play. I'll start off with hands and actions I suggest for you in the various positions around the table. Following this will initially make for a pretty boring game for you, but will make you really hard to beat, and your opponents at this level won't be exploiting you. You'll also be building a really tight image which you can use to your advantage as you become more confident and experienced. In fact, you will be the one exploiting the other players. So, on with the starting hands. This is a graphic from PokerStove, a really good piece of free software used for calculating equities and hand matchups. So this shows my suggested hand range for opening from early position. When I say range, I mean a group of hands, and when I say opening, I mean betting. To start with, I suggest you never call or limp pre-flop. This will likely get me slated by more experienced players, but I don't care. If you're new to this game and you make all your major decisions pre-flop, you are never going to be put in a sticky situation, out of position, post-flop. Play like this for say 6 sessions and you'll see why. You'll notice other guys spewing chips, limping pre-flop and having to fold to a raise, or calling pre-flop and folding on the flop when they miss, or don't hit the flop well, as is the case most of the time. This is not going to be how you play the game. Just give it a chance. Once you've got the basic aggressive mentality, you'll be able to widen your range of hands and play much better post-flop. Anyway, back to the graphic. By early position, I mean in the first 2 seats after the blinds in a 9 or 10 handed game. I'm suggesting you open this narrow range. It's only 7.5% of hands and doesn't include smaller pairs. Now, I've suggested you don't play these initially because you're going to find yourself taking flops out of position and facing scary overcards to your pair. Also, the lower pairs will be less able to make straights, as your opponents are likely going to hold aces in their calling range, which blocks some of your straight possibilities. Also, when you raise with these hands and get 3-bet, by this I mean a villain re-raising you, you're never in a happy place, so keep it simple for now. Don't worry, you'll be playing these soon enough, but rarely from this position. The top of the range includes a lot of aces and a somewhat questionable king-queen. The reason for all the aces is fairly simple. If you have one, then it's less likely the villains do, and they will either be calling you with a worse hand or folding to your open pre-flop, all of which is good for you. Incidentally, I'll talk about bet sizing another time, as these videos are supposed to be less than 15 minutes each, and I want to try and keep each one on subject. Having said that, the subject of this was supposed to be bankroll and table select, and here we are talking about hand ranges. As for the king-queen suited, it's up to you, but I'd include it as it's ahead of the villain's calling range, by which I mean the group of hands the villain will be calling you with. So what is the villain's calling range? Well, it looks something like this. I'm not kidding, in fact, in some cases you could probably add all combinations of Broadway cards, by that I mean picture cards, even suited one-gappers, and the rest of the aces is not out of the question. These live players have not travelled all the way to the casino to fold for 8 hours. Unfortunately, you're going to start with, but soon you're going to add more raising to your game and some occasional in-position calling. And in the longer term against thinking players that you may come across, we're going to add some balance and deception to your game. Anyway, back to the opening hands. As you can see, you crush the villain's calling range by approximately 2-1, and this would be even more if he called you as wide as some villains really do. You'll notice that big pairs and ace-king are not in this range, as I assume he 3-bets these monsters, though many players these days I see flat calling with ace-king also. I'm going to run out of time now, so I'll break and hopefully crack on with hand ranges in the next couple of videos. Let me know what you think. If I get some valid arguments to my theories, I'll add them to future videos. After all, I'm still learning the game. Cheers, guys.